friends, Lissa here for another video. Today I'd like to quickly chat about my views on abstinence. In this video, we're going to be talking about food abstinence. Now, I know there are many people who think that complete food abstinence is restricting. Now, my perspective of it is that it's not. I don't believe that I am restricting myself at all. In fact, I don't believe that I can do moderation. I don't believe the word moderation. I think it's just a justification used to continue eating foods that we already know shouldn't be in our body. If you have to use the word moderation to justify something, you already know that you shouldn't be eating it. So, you go to a friend's house or whatever, and you're like, oh, well, in moderation, it's okay for me to have this cake or pizza or whatever. These things we know aren't good for us. And I'm going to use alcoholism and drugs as an analogy. I know they're not the same, but for me, they feel like they are the same. So that's why I use them as an analogy. But a recovering drug addict and a recovering alcoholic do not moderate their addictions of choice. Now, before I became raw vegan, probably a couple of months before, I read a book called The Heroin Diaries by Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue. And in that book, I could relate to everything that he was saying about the drug. And I was putting myself in his position and feeling those feelings towards food. And that's where I realized that I had a food addiction. I didn't know what to do about it at the time, but I knew I had a problem with food, and I was treating it like a drug. So I needed to be completely abstinent. Like I'm talking nothing. I don't allow a chip here or there. I don't allow a couple French fries. I don't allow, a couple sips of soup or anything. I don't allow it in my life because it brings me freedom. It does not bring me restriction. So when I was eating these foods that I was addicted to, the thought of abstinence felt very restricting. It feels restricting because it's like your addiction is like, no, don't let me go. It doesn't want to be let go. So the thought of abstinence feels extremely restricting. You're like, I can't do it. I can't restrict that food, or I can't never eat potatoes again, or whatever the food is for you. We can't fathom it. It's scary. It's something that we don't want to do. So we feel it's very restricting. And when we look from that state of food addiction, when we look in on somebody who's, say, eating like me or eating vegan or whatever, we feel that their diet is restrictive. Now, there's two different kinds of restriction. There's the abstinence restriction, and then there's actual food restriction. I don't believe in food restriction. I disagree with it completely. I think we should be eating an abundance of food. We should never restrict our calories. But I believe in food addiction abstinence. The things that trigger you, the things that make you want to eat more, the things that are kind of like gateway drugs that open the doors for more stuff to come into your life, those foods should be eliminated, basically, if you can. And again, this is just from my own experience and from countless others that I have seen go through the food addiction cycle. Really, the only way to get rid of withdrawal symptoms is to get rid of the drug. So you're constantly going to have withdrawal symptoms throughout your life if you constantly reintroduce the food of choice, I guess. So we could use coffee as an example. Once you get over the initial withdrawal phase and you give up coffee for the rest of your life, you're never going to have caffeine withdrawal because you're not consuming caffeine. But when you let it into your life here and there, and then you want to let go of it again, you're constantly in that battle. But once you get rid of it completely, it's like you're free. You're like, I don't have to worry about that ever again. So that's where I believe that abstinence equals freedom. And I feel so much more freedom by not having to have these foods randomly in my diet, even here and there, small amounts. what's moderation for one person is not moderation for another. Maybe once a week is moderate, maybe once a month is moderate, once a year, once a day, once an hour. Like it's all different. It's all based on subjective perception. Like we all have our own views of what moderation is. So there is zero definition of perfect moderation. It doesn't exist, because moderation is basically a word that justifies keeping things into our diet. So when I discovered the foods that were addictive to me, I had to release them completely. Now, like I've mentioned in many videos and all over the place, that I'm not a perfect raw vegan. I still do like maple syrup, cashews, nutritional yeast, coconut aminos, and some of those things are not considered raw foods, but they don't trigger me. They don't trigger me to want to eat a whole bowl of potatoes. They don't trigger me to want to have vegan pizzas and chips and, like indulge in all of these foods that I know are not going to make me feel good. So I feel that you do know which foods those are. And that's where you can like listen to your body and see how you feel after eating certain things. Those are the foods that you know you should release and let go of. I believe that complete abstinence is easier than perfect moderation. Again, because perfect moderation doesn't exist, it's easier to stay completely abstinent. It's so much easier for me to say no across the board than to say yes here and there to certain things, this day or that day or whatever. It creates this battle in my mind, and that feels to me like an eating disorder. So moderation to me feels like an eating disorder, but complete abstinence feels like freedom. It's a very interesting way to live, because I never believed that abstinence would be freedom. I thought it was always restriction and not fun, and it was going to suck and all that stuff. But I didn't realize that it was going to bring me to the freedom I have now with the food choices that I make currently. So I try my best to eat as abundantly as possible. Lots of fruit for breakfast, fruit for snacks, and a huge salad for lunch, and a huge salad for dinner. That's how I lay out my day. I try to get over 2,400 calories. It fluctuates really. It depends. Between 2,100 calories and about 2,700 calories is kind of like the average that I'm at now. And it's going to change throughout the years. I'm never going to stay exactly the same as I am now. Maybe I'll need more calories later. Maybe I'll need less calories later. But I always try to stay over 2,000 calories, make sure that I get enough in, make sure that I get enough variety so that I get all of my nutrition. And I also feel, on that note of eating a lot of calories and keeping your nutrition high helps better than willpower at remaining abstinent. So if you're eating like a gigantic raw salad and then you go to the grocery store, you're a lot less likely to want all of the other foods that are on your abstain list. But if you don't eat and then you go to the grocery store and you are hungry, those foods are going to look intriguing because you don't have any fuel going through your body. So I highly recommend for people to eat food to stay full and stay hydrated and stay sane, really. I mean, if you're eating enough food, and a lot of people don't realize that you do need to eat a lot more than you are. That's why I recommend when you first start on a raw vegan diet, you should be tracking your calories. You don't have to do it for life, but you have to do it to get to learn how much you need to eat. So many people say they're eating intuitively and they had this and that, and then when we go through exactly what they had, they're only eating like between 700 and 1,200 calories a day, and they wonder why they're getting headaches, detox symptoms. I want to do a video about the detox culture and how that can be very dangerous, because so many people think that their symptoms are detox, but they're not. They're not eating enough. They are under eating over the course of a week or two, and they're like, the raw diet doesn't work for me. But maybe because they're just not eating enough calories, because they're not used to eating that much, and they're used to eating like smaller portions of salads, along with really, really, really dense calories, like smaller portions. You can eat this much cooked food, and it's really, really calorie dense, so you fill up faster. Whereas when you're eating greens and fruits and vegetables, you need to eat more to get enough calories in. So I do recommend tracking, but that was just another tip that I wanted to say. If you want to remain abstinent and you want to be able to say no, you gotta stay full. You gotta feed your body that natural, delicious, awesome vegan, raw vegan food to keep yourself satiated so that you don't end up eating the foods on your abstain list. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please click like and subscribe to my channel to get notifications for more. If you're looking for awesome raw vegan recipes, you can find all of those right here. You can also find the link in the description below, and I also have print versions of these books on Amazon, so if you're interested in the print version, you can head over there. I am on Instagram and Twitter at Raw Food Romance, Facebook, Lissa's Raw Food Romance, and on Snapchat, Lissa Raw Vegan. And until the next video, guys, I love you all, and fruit on.